Do you like to fish, but the idea of fishing just seems artsy to you?
I just wish fishing was less like an art house film like In a Violent Nature and more like real life.
Well, I got that solution for you. If you go into this cage, we drop you in. You get about 30, 40 seconds to survive. And the whole point is for you to break out and come back to the surface. By doing so, you hit a euphoria.
Wow, that's really a unique experience and something that sounds like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, listen to my son. He'll tell you the story of how he became the first ever user of unknown product name.
My dad gave me so much anxiety, and I'd never seen him for 4 years because he threw me in a cage, and he threw me down the water, and a shark almost killed me, and I almost drowned, and life has been really hard, and I don't even look at the water anymore. There's me thinking about it. Miserable.
See, the point of that is that it makes fishing fun because you see the fish and you're also trapped. So it's a matter of life or death, which makes fun for everyone. Because people up on the boat are like, well, holy shit, what the fuck are we going to do? And you in the cage are like, holy shit, I'm about to become fish food. And it makes fishing very unique.
Wow, sign me up. Officiation cages, starting at $49.99. We will not be held responsible for debts.
My name is Junkyard Steve, and I come to anyone's house and pick up all your crap. And I take that crap and I sell it for fortunes. And then anything you want, I'll take. I call my pickup truck, I got my golden retriever, and me and Bip will come here and take whatever you want. Furniture that you don't need, furniture that you still using. I'll grab it. My hands are sticky.
Hey, what are you doing in my house? Whoa, put the gun down.
Oh, just taking the couch, because I'm Junkyard Steve.
Get the fuck out. Whoa, okay, all right. Oh, shit, let's stay away from my son. Just please take whatever you want.
Junkyard Steve.
No money back, never guaranteed. Welcome back to the one and only Dub Feet Variety Hour podcast, where we only, exclusively, never stray from a topic and only talk about 2 movies and compare and contrast them. Isn't that right, Tom?
I am here. Yes, that's right. Usually it's over an hour and a half of that.
Yes.
Comparing and contrasting something. Actually, It's always been A and B something.
I mean, so that's generally why I've made it the Dub Free Variety Hour, because I know for a fact we never stay 100% on movies. We meander, we talk about other stuff, we leave it open. That's why I always left it Variety Hour.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
But the whole point of it being Dub Feet was for the sake of 2 movies. And that is our plan today, essentially. So what's new with you, Tom? How you been?
I've been all right. It's been a slow summer. This is going to be fun to listen to months from now. Hopefully that changes. But, it's been...
Yeah, when I drop it in October.
Exactly. Happy Halloween, everybody. Yeah, it's been quiet. My son went for tonsil surgery.
Oh, yeah.
And adenoids. He got them removed. Actually, we just found out 2 days ago, the measurement for his tonsils was 3 centimeters.
Oh, damn.
Which is pretty big.
Okay. So that was literally like
the
golf balls in the back of his throat.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
So he's been a little cranky, but that's been the event of the summer for me, more or less. How about yourself?
Oh, yeah. Just, 2023 continuing on the butt fucking of life. But there are still plenty of positive outcomes of all of it. I won't dive in too much, but all I can say is my grandma's doing a lot better than she was.
That's knocking on wood.
Yep. So progress is always good.
Oh, wait. And then for those who don't know,
yes.
Not to get too personal, obviously you can cut this if you want, but your grandmother had hip surgery.
Yeah.
And she
had a stroke.
And
due to the stroke, she ended up breaking her hip. Yeah. Well, not really because of the stroke. It was more because of negligence at the place that she was at, but that's a whole nother thing to dive into another time.
Right.
But yeah.
But just in the event of things that are accumulating.
The events have been stacked in such a weird way. Yeah. It was just one thing after another. My grandma had a stroke. My brother hit his head and had a pretty fucked up concussion. And it's just been one of those like let's keep the bad times rolling. But at least, most of it's been smoothing out and positive things are coming. You mentioned work and it being like a slow summer, and I've felt the same way, and only recently have jobs sort of like culminated after turning down jobs that were not going to provide any monetary gain. Which is, I had this conversation with the people I've been working with. It's just like, you get caught, at least where the stage I am, you get caught between like pursuing
right?
I think I applied to. Oh yeah, sorry, no. But you continue.
It's in this particular situation. Damien was going to work on a shoot with this guy is pretty much established director, but through miscommunication or just not just clarity, which is really not there.
Yeah,
he found that it was a non-paid job, and the problem with that is it's not just that situation in terms of industry. It's just everywhere. Like, I don't know.
No, I got hit up for a job. So one of the ADs that I worked with not too long ago, and I work with him. It's a PA, which just shows the hunger. Because he's a pretty good AD, and just because he needs work, he was doing a PA job with me with a pay cut just to keep the money flow.
Of course,
a big part of this industry. But anyways, anytime he sees stuff, he's one of those guys. He looks out for others, and he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
He saw a post of somebody that he follows that says they need a sound guy for 2 days, and he sent it over to me. He's like, "Hey, dude, if you're interested, blah 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 blah." So I'm like, "All right, awesome." I mean, that could be 2 extra days of pay. It could be another project to work on. So I messaged the dude, and of course, I messaged the dude. And he's like, "Hey, man, it's not my project. Also, it's unpaid, and yada yada." It was like 3 things, and I'm like, fuck. The reality of it is that those are the choices you have to make, unfortunately, right now.
Well, anyway, yeah.
We're sticking on with the good topic of loom and gloom.
Yeah.
So anyways, my rent's 3 months past. The bills are piling up. The government has seized my car, and I drank leftover coffee from 3 weeks ago. Anyways, everything's great. No, things aren't that bad. There's just a natural strain across the God gracious United States of America right now. But there are other good things going on in the world, like going to the movies, watching new TV shows. I don't know. Have you been watching any shows? Have you been catching anything on?
Just the Only Murders in the Building.
Only Murders in the Building, yeah.
Started that. I've been enjoying it. And then been getting into a lot of movie watching.
Okay.
Back into it. That doesn't make it sound like it's my first time into it. But like,
no, it's funny that you say it that way because I feel like okay, let me backtrack just a smidge. But when the Oscars and stuff were building up and they were advertising all these movies, I feel like the advertisements for everything was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So it geared me up to, which I've done it before. I've done it a few years ago where the movies were a lot fucking better, unfortunately. But like I was geared up to watch like every single Oscar movie. And then I watched like maybe 5.
He didn't.
And then I just fell out. Like I couldn't keep up. And I just, I watched 5 of what I planned to be all of the movies.
Right.
And then I just fell off of movies completely after that. Like I just stopped watching. It just became like, I'm just going to rewatch How I Met Your Mother. I'm going to rewatch The Simpsons. I'm going to rewatch Impractical Jokers, which I've literally rewatched since the dawn of the pandemic. So it was just like the redundancy of just falling into the comfort shows as opposed to watching new stuff.
Right.
And then come this year, at least with a couple months coming in more towards the spring, summer, a lot of the shows that I've watched, they've come back. So that kind of geared me up to watch my standard, like The Boys, House of the Dragon, and whatever else. However, as we always do, we talk movies. You'll say, hey, I saw this such and such. You should probably check it out, and I'll do the same. Or, hey, this one was fucking stupid. Don't bother. But you kind of geared me back up to start watching flicks again, in addition to, like, Cassidy, my niece, who's horror movie obsessed. Yeah, we got a couple in our belt at least this year, right?
Uh-huh.
In the theater, for that matter.
Well, one in the theater, the other one at
oh yeah, true.
At home. But go ahead, lead it in.
In the comfort of our
yeah. I mean, I will say before we dive into that I'm okay with the fact that we watched one not in the theater.
Yeah,
but I'm also. I would have been very happy with watching the other movie.
I was just going to say, I think had we reversed them, like if we saw one in the theater and not the other, and as we're being super ambiguous about it, like we're not about to talk to you about these movies for 45 minutes straight. The movies we are talking about are In a Violent Nature,
which we watched at home.
Yeah.
And Longlegs, which we saw opening day on Friday.
Yes.
From when this recording. So that was July, whatever that is.
Yeah. Half a week 13th,
ago. 13th, yeah.
Yeah.
So you took it upon yourself to
I
Reddit.
Figured, yes. I figured, I was feeling extra spicy. And so with all social media, you have an expectation of return fire, sometimes for the positive, mostly for the negative.
Right.
That's the general pathways of the internet. And a lot of people, including myself, assume that the source for that negativity is mostly from Reddit because it's pretentious assholes who have opinions and they feel like their opinions are holier than thou 99.9% of the time. I steered right into that, and I posted a couple things. One, I also watched The Fall Guy, and I guess because I was in like a semi-review-ish mentality, I was like, let me post a little blurb about that too, just to see and kind of test the waters out and see what kind of response I get. I did that with The Fall Guy. Most people agree with me, actually, because I didn't realize it was based on a show. But I digress. I also did that with In a Violent Nature, and I kind of did it with Longlegs. It just didn't get as much of a response as In a Violent Nature is. So there's a subreddit called Horror, and it's pretty much just like cream of the crop fanboy horror guys. I'm also convinced at this point that it's probably a lot of like the actual critics that review these movies, because every movie that we've seen horror movie wise has been so high scoring on Rotten Tomatoes with the aggregating, which means that's X amount of people said this movie is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And when they're certified fresh, that means that majority of people are saying that they're awesome. I can tell you this, with the exception of Talk to Me, I have not seen a horror movie that matches the score, at least from my perspective. And In a Violent Nature was also one of those. It got such a fucking, what was it, 80%? Or even higher.
Violent Nature? As of now, it's at 80.
And I wanted to essentially I went on Reddit to tear it down from that high point. And of course, I was met with a lot of, well, you just didn't understand it.
Well, we actually have, or Damien has screenshots of some of those comments, and I felt it would be kind of funny to air those out, and then we can discuss that. Because while you're looking that up, I just want to say the only movie that scored on Rotten Tomatoes close to what I would score it, and I felt that it was fair, was the Winnie the Pooh movie, the second one,
Blood and Honey.
I think that one got a 47. I
felt like that was still too high.
Okay, so, right,
but
yeah,
still better than part one.
But yeah, by far. But I felt at 47, I thought that was fine because it had a story. Everything was amped up. It knew it was stupid. It was fine. But that's right. A movie for a different time.
It steered into the notion of what the
of course,
and also apparently universe building, which is
fucking dumb.
What we need to do is continue to watch these horrible movies and then do a whole podcast on the I'm going to call it the Shittyverse. That's the name of it.
Well, we almost got onto Steamboat Willie.
Oh, yeah, true.
That would have been a mistake.
It would have been cool. Like, we helped create garbage.
I couldn't. Another story for another time.
But yes, we'll save that for when we start dissecting this horrible royalty, copyright-free universe once it's fully fleshed out.
Those gates have opened, yeah.
But
aside from that movie, yes, I agree. Violent Nature, I think, is scored way too high. And Longlegs, I mean, I don't know exactly as of today, but last time we checked, which was the night we saw the movie, was like at 91.
Oh, I saw it certified fresh, so that means it's over 80. If I'm not mistaken. Or certified
over
means
70.
It just stayed. Yeah, I think it means it stayed on the same.
It's locked in. It stayed fresh. Yeah. So I don't know if it's at high 80s or 91. I mean, at one point for about almost a week it was at 100, but that always changes because there was reviews still coming in. But 91 is way too high, way too high. I wouldn't even put that movie. I would not even give that movie a fresh tomato. I don't think it's the worst movie I've seen this year.
No,
not at all.
Not in any perspective.
Yeah, no. There's other movies we can throw as an example. I'm sure we could pick something that was like for example, we watched Tarot, which was it knew what it was and it was fine.
Yeah, it was
a run of the mill. Yeah.
Was I entertained? Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Was it stupid and a PG-13 horror movie and it felt like that? 1,000,000%.
Absolutely. Like that was not a great movie, but I can at least say it was deserving of its score. Plus
we didn't pay for it,
and we didn't pay for it.
Allegedly.
Right. But had Longlegs been paid for or not, I still and that's where I want to get into with these comments is that these reviews or the number that it's been giving to these score, like the score number or whatever, is just so high, and I just the what is commented on it, like the little blurbs, like this like philosophical meaning to why this movie's great is concerning to me because I think it's taking the perspective of what should be the sort of bullet points of what a good horror movie should be, because everything is, and we said this in the car, everything is, it has to be new and different.
I think, sorry to cut you off, but I think the biggest problem is a lot of people take what is a subjective reason and then they pin it as the objectivity of the movie. Right. And that's what's going on a lot with a lot of horror movies. It's like, well, because you such and such this and that makes this a good movie. It's like, because you have to go so far out of your way to change what the formula is,
Right.
that makes it a good movie.
Well, let's
I don't think so.
let's before we get into the comments,
Yes.
we'll start. So, A Violent Nature, and that I just want to piggyback off what you said. So, A Violent Nature, for those who don't know, it's a very simple movie about a group of adults. They are camping. They come across this person. Just call him Jason Voorhees, but he's not. But he's buried because somebody did him wrong, burning building.
They essentially come across his shrine that has there's a couple things. There's a necklace, and it's just like I want to say like a board that sort of marks the
grave,
quote unquote grave.
Right. And so they take his necklace.
It's like, that necklace is cool. I'm gonna give it to my girlfriend. Blah, blah, blah,
like
blah.
it's not implied that they went specifically for that. It was just like any Friday 13th they were camping. But anyway, so they take his necklace.
Yeah.
And then immediately the movie kicks in. The guy, he comes alive, and he goes in POV. You're tracking behind him like a third person video game, and you're just watching him basically find his necklace. And I'm not shortening it. That's the movie.
Not exaggerating it at all. Which, if you look at the basis of most slashers, there is a thinly veiled reason to why he keeps going on.
Of course.
I mean, with Friday the 13th, they essentially the first one, which is the most unique one, the mom goes after killing everybody in the camp because they were responsible for her son's death.
Right.
He comes back in 2, and then he starts killing everybody who killed his mom, and then it just force-fed itself.
Of course.
A whole franchise that gets significantly worse, but
right.
to a level of entertainment, there is entertainment there, especially with the hockey mask and the shtick and the usual shit that comes along with a slasher movie.
But
making the foundation, making the foundation for what slashers continued to be since the 70s on to close to today.
So the thing with that is, it's, I don't know who would argue this, but at least Friday 13th set up a sort of between Halloween, Friday 13th, whatever, however, or The Burning. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
no.
But like these kind of movies set up this sort of foundation for like, this is what a slasher movie is.
100%.
And so like now when you watch in A Violent Nature, okay, fine. Then the difference is now we're following the serial killer throughout his killings, or the monster, whatever you want to call him, throughout his whole killings, and to a point it's cool. It doesn't change anything for me. It's not mind-blowing. It's not like, whoa, you just turned the horror thing.
Holy shit, I'm seeing it from his perspective.
Right. It's like
how many over-the-shoulders have we gotten of Michael Myers? Which
was in the new Halloween.
Yes. I remember seeing that, and this is just a slight sidebar.
Well,
but
give
still
that
relevant.
example, because that's what this is.
Yeah. So we saw Halloween, and we were
the remake,
heavily underwhelmed.
Yeah, well.
But we still felt the need to continue on because we're purists, and we have to keep going on.
Right.
We have to finish what we started.
Right.
And they dropped the trailer for Halloween Kills, and it was like an extended, whatever, close-up scene, whatever.
Was that or it's just Halloween?
Wasn't it?
No, it was the first one.
That was part 1?
That was part 1.
Oh, because I feel like that was what made me even want to watch part 2.
No.
Damn. Whatever. And
I'm pretty sure it was part 1.
Okay. Well, my point is...
Yeah, well, whatever. Whichever movie it is, but go ahead.
Either or, if it's one or the other. But my point is, just from seeing that tracking shot, it threw me in such a level of nostalgia and excitement, because I was like, all right, so they're still paying homage to the original, but still trying to do something unique. And it sent me back to being 8 years old and cowering under a blanket and fearing for my life weeks after watching Halloween from 1978. And
if you're curious to what Damon's referring to, just look up Halloween trailer or Halloween behind the scenes.
Halloween extended clip. What the fuck do they call that when they drop that for
exclusive or
exclusive,
not featurette,
exclusive look or whatever?
Yeah,
and that's essentially what it was, because it was literally just a cut of a scene of the tracking that we've seen 1,000 times.
Yeah, he's just walking through the town or the town or the suburb, and he's going from one house to another. But that's essentially what. In the Violent Nature did for an hour and a half.
That's what I was gonna say. Because in Halloween, even though it was done in such a small amount, it was like the perfect amount, the happy medium amount. In A Violent Nature, they milk it to the point where like they do a time lapse. They do jump cuts, time lapse with him walking in. It's all right. Sun is up now. Sun went down.
Yeah,
that was.
I'm
that
not
was
exaggerating.
One of the
That's literally what's happening throughout that whole movie.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and here's another problem of mine. We said that had it been a short film, or even if it topped out in an hour, because you can make a movie 60 minutes and argue that it's a feature film for distribution rights, whatever. The problem I had with this is you want to do these artistic long takes of him walking, whatever.
Right.
But when it comes to the people that he's targeting. I mean, the acting is terrible, and that brings me to this point where there's just no stake. There's no conflict. There's no like tension. Because it's just like literally like, oh, it's him. Oh
Yes.
no, and then he's killing them, and it's like, and then while the other person's getting brutally murdered, it's like, oh no, we gotta go. I'm like, I'm so not exaggerating. There's nothing to it, so it deflates. It just deflates everything.
It just feels like a meander, and it feels lazy. That's how I felt the entire fucking movie. Yeah. Unfortunately,
people getting murdered, and then the other actors are like, oh no, we gotta run. Like I'm not even.
We gotta go. On top of being just ADR. It's just awful. ADR is audio recorded after the fact and usually plugged into the film after it's done. It's not recorded in the moment like with the boom and a lav. It's literally placed in after. And if it's done well, it can go unnoticed. When it's done bad, it just sounds out of place and takes you out of the fucking movie, like this movie did for almost every scene, unless we saw somebody's mouth moving.
Yeah.
And I was mad because I'm like, usually that's something that I can kind of overlook and it doesn't bother me, but it bothered me a lot.
It's very distracting. It's a very the discrepancy is there, but that also speaks true to the budget. I don't know what the budget was on this movie. I'm sure it wasn't high at all. I mean, there's nothing, I think, other than like the practical effects and maybe there's like a guest actress in the movie, which I don't really want to give it away, but I really don't give a fuck.
Right.
If we spoil it.
We I think we might as well at this point.
Yeah.
One of the actresses in Friday the 13th Part 2, she is playing a different character at the end of this movie, but she's sort of like the savior person-esque at the end. But she has like the longest back and forth conversation that just makes the movie meander when it's supposed to be the ending point, or at least the jump point or something. Right. But then it just goes on forever.
It goes on forever. So between the blood and the and maybe her.
You know, they say animal don't know gonna kill if it don't know. It's like, what? Like I wrote down the quote before, but it was just one of those like, it was like I got
animals
what she was,
don't have a reason or something.
Yeah, the thing with animals when they kill is they don't know they have to. She said it something. It sounded good.
Yeah.
But it was such a like, and I remember I texted it to you after I heard it. You just kind of, you texted me back, eye roll emojis, like, whatever, bitch. Like, it's pretty obvious. Yes, you're talking about, you think she got attacked by some wolf or animal, but it had nothing to do with anything.
Well, also, you could take it that way, and you could also take it that it doesn't really apply, because, look, guys, spoiler alert, the whole point of this movie, as we already mentioned, is
don't steal necklaces from the forest.
He's just stealing a necklace because his parents gave it to him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
His dad died. He died in this horrible fire that was caused by the town people because they freaks. They thought
real
they was freaks.
fucking original.
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. So so he wants his necklace back. At the end, he gets his necklace back because, go figure, all they had to do was just leave it somewhere and he was going to leave them alone.
Right.
So they get the necklace back and the movie kind of ends. But this whole time between this back and forth, you think that this woman that picked this girl up is going to be part of this killing,
in
or
cahoots in a sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque way, or just like the one person that happened to be on the side of the road, so she's going to literally make a U-turn and take you back to the bad guy.
Exactly. So she doesn't, and the whole point, which was a big argument on Reddit,
which I will slightly argue, it was cool for a moment, and then when it just kept going,
it's just too long. And that's the motif of this whole
fucking
film
movie in itself.
And then so people argue, well, it's about building the tension because this whole time you're waiting for him to follow them into the trap, and then he gets them.
You're waiting for the jump scene, the jump scare where he comes out and kills them both, and then it fades to black. But then it's just like this long, obnoxious shot into the woods, and then a slow pan, like literally probably one of the slowest pans I've seen in a fucking movie in a long time.
To the necklace,
to the necklace, to where the necklace was left for him to pick back up, and then that was concluding. All right, he's made his peace. He's gone now.
So. It's
as the wise Homer Simpson would say, boring.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought, but let's just pull up some comments. Maybe it'll flow back in.
So essentially, as I would say semi-eloquently shit talk this movie into a hole because it was bad. People didn't really agree with my comments, or agree with my outlook. I'll read what I posted, and then I'll dive into some of the comments here. So I wrote, "What is the appeal of In a Violent Nature?" Unfortunately for me, that's already a pretty baity comment. It's like I'm already going, hey, so why did you guys even like this piece of shit? Which, in my naivete, I probably should have went into it a little more discussion-based. However, because of how I went into it, it provided a lot of great comments.
Well, yeah.
Which I shall follow through with now. Just right off the top of the bat. Personally, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting take to follow the killer and see it from the monster side. It's like, yeah, but that shtick only works for X amount of time. Like, come on. I liked it. It's an art house slasher film. Director basically said it's Gus Van Sant meets Friday the 13th. The ranger kill is so sadistic and brutal in my opinion. See, I agree with it being Gus Van Sant because it's an hour and a half that you'll never get back from your life, and boring as all dog shit.
There's a lot of movies this director has made, with the exception of a few, but very much in line of like, you follow these people, nothing's happening, literally nothing's happening, but you're supposed to believe something's happening.
Yes.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah,
So
that's what art house is, okay?
Yeah.
Like, bro, do you even film?
Right.
Do you even film school, bro?
Look, whoever's listening to this, I don't know where you are in the country or wherever, but here in Brooklyn, we have a lot of hipsters. And the hipsters like to believe that, I'm going to be controversial here, but give me a second to make this point.
Yes. I think I know where it's going, so I'll back you up because I know exactly what you're about to say.
So, kombucha is not that great.
Whoa. Back off of kombucha. I love kombucha.
Kombucha is not that great, right? I'll drink it, but it's not
Healthy.
that great.
It's
healthy,
not bad.
but yeah.
My mom used to brew it back before it was cool.
Right.
My mom is the hipster of kombucha because she was brewing it before even hipsters were drinking it.
But
that's not the point.
But the point is that, all right, scratch kombucha. That was a bad example. My point is, you have two salads in front of you, or two pizzas. One is charging $80 because everything's organic,
Artisanal.
Right. The other one's charging $3. It's fine. You know what you
Standard
expect.
cheese
It's good.
slice.
It's good.
Yeah.
People are going to argue, especially people in Brooklyn. People are going to argue that the artisanal one is better because they are forced to believe that it's $80. It's organic from top to bottom. It's fresh. It's this and that. So it has to be good. It's got to be the best fucking pizza in the world. Now take that. I'm taking that metaphor or that analogy, and I want to just plug this into that comment. To say it's art house, to look at a movie where nothing's happening on screen, even when this ranger part gets killed, it's literally like 10 minutes of him getting like slowly chopped up.
Yes.
And you watch this for 10, 15 minutes. It's just so goddamn boring.
Yes.
And you force yourself to believe that this is correct because this is art. This is artisanal pizza that my brain is $80, so it's gonna be good. Right. And you can't argue against it. And that's my problem, especially with that comment.
And that's 90% of the comments I got back. Granted, there was a handful of comments that agreed with me.
Right,
which I will get to shortly, but of course I'm going to keep reading.
Yes, please.
Some more
Sorry,
comments.
that one when we were talking about the other night, I was like, that's been
nail
a
on the head, man. That's exactly how it seems and how it feels. Because every time they feel like they have to defend something for the sake of all that, everything you just said.
Yeah, because there's like a need to fill in. There's a need to fill in the blanks of things that are not working. In the case of this film, to justify it, but there's no justification. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Speaking of art house, I watched House, and that shit was boring.
House, the 80s horror movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's boring as hell.
It's just like, it's so long, and then when the kills and stuff start happening, it's trippy, which is cool, and visually, for that time period, awesome.
House 2 is much better.
But it was just so like, what is this?
Yeah, no, but a lot of 80s movies too, if you watch them, like Nightmare on Elm Street's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a little slow.
Right.
It's a little slow. It's world building, but
look at the Halloween 1 and 2, the same kind of deal. You know,
wow.
Okay, well, part 2. Part one
takes its
Part one's
time.
a little balanced, but at least there's a slowness that's building to something.
Of course.
Part 2 is a lot of slow in a hospital.
Well, we never spoke about this, but there is no music in this whole movie. It was very little, if anything.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And
there's a lot of
just more ambience building. It's a lot of sonic soundscapes, which sometimes it helps. But there's a reason why music's been around since the dawn of movie making and how it's so effective. Listen, it's a choice, and that's okay. It doesn't. A lot of movies don't need music.
No, I mean, one of the choices that we make whenever we make stuff, we try to go as minimal as possible,
of course.
To set a minor tone, but to give it some oomph.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of how we've put things together, it's helped a lot. But anyways, back to this. Let's see. Okay, so this is one that's a middle ground. I'll read one of these just to give us a little. I liked it, but the car scene at the end, LOL, I was, what the fuck is this lady going on about? which is true.
Right, which is what we mentioned.
Because what she was saying, it's like she kept going on and on. There's classical music playing on the radio, so there's this weird tension that's building, but for no purpose other than like, okay, is she gonna help her? And it was
sorry. So this reminds me of that. Now I remember what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah,
she has the quote that animals hurt or kill, but there's like no reasoning behind it. They just do it, and they kind of go on with their life. That's not verbatim. That I'm paraphrasing very heavily, but that's kind of the gist. And so it's like,
as you say this, I'm gonna try to look it up.
Okay, please,
so I can quote it.
But it's like, well, is she referring to maybe this whole thing was a bear attack and they were just like on drugs, or is she trying to justify that?
Which, and sorry to sidebar bar you on this, but the woman that ends up in her car, the woman that was part of the camping crew, how the fuck did she get injured? She fell and a twig went through her leg.
Yeah.
There was no like proper backstory on how she got injured. They just showed her running another long, dragged out, jump cutty, time lapse, and then all of a sudden the final mark on it when she like before she wanders to the highway or the one road, there's a half chunk twig in her leg. Like she somehow, because of exhaustion and running, she stabbed herself in the leg. Yeah. That made no sense to me.
No sense.
Anything you want to argue, art house this or submersive or subverting, whatever the fuck you want to say, you still have things in the movie that make no fucking sense whatsoever. That it's not a MacGuffin. It's not a fucking Chekhov's gun. It's just shit that does not make any fucking sense. You can't put any fancy film term on it,
right?
Because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh, believe me, Longlegs has that particular.
And we haven't
scene
even opened up the Longlegs yet. We're getting there.
But yeah, no, I agree on that too. But just to finish his point, so I think it was like a justification that all he did was want his necklace, and he was killing because he had no reasoning.
No shit, Sherlock. I just kept feeling like that.
Like, it's just such a lost quote that I think you're trying to like, give some reasoning behind it, but it doesn't work. But I'm only bringing this up again. It's because this is the kind of mentality this movie has, where it's like trying to say something or do something visually, but it just doesn't work. And I'm gonna refuse and fight to believe that that's proper. Like what a proper new gen horror movie should be. Right. Because if that's the case, then I'm in. Forget horror. I can't do this shit anymore.
I felt like that after we watched this. Like, if I watch another bad horror movie after this, I think I have to give up on horror for a while, or hope for. I don't know. It left me in this like, now what? What do we do with this?
A lot of them have been fucking bad. Yeah. It's been really bad. It's been a really bad year for horror movies for me. I mean, and it's funny to say because yesterday,
not according to the critics.
Well, not according to box office results. Apparently, horror movies are the only things that are doing really well, which I don't think so. Because Inside Out.
Well, yeah, true. I've been hearing just from like general. So earlier today, I was listening to the Workaholics podcast, and they were talking about how like comedy movies get no love in the box office anymore. Yeah. For most of the time, comedy movies don't even make it to the box office. Like the last big one that was, at least to the, whether you liked it or not, commercially successful, maybe not critically successful. I don't remember the rating, but Ricky Stenicki, that was like popular.
Is that in the movies?
No, didn't even make it.
No, that made it on Amazon. Yeah,
but it was just it had an appeal, but it never even got to see the light of day in a theater.
guess Barbie is considered a comedy, right?
So, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but that's like you're taking a big trademark name, I guess an organic, fresh idea. Yeah, I guess Ricky Stenicki's a good one because it didn't make it to the movies. But if it did make it to the movies, it wouldn't have done well now. But had it come out like, early 2000s, or like 2012 at least, I think it would have done okay. And it's just a big change. It's just a huge change. Streaming's also like, it's taken a huge plummet on like. I also think it takes a huge plummet on projects in general. I think
for sure.
A lot of studios are just taking what they can. 100%. So I don't think there's like much. A lot of these movies that have come out feel so rushed and lazy, but it's all about abundance. It's the what is it? The quality over quantity over quality.
And this is just a full on sidebar, but that's where content is headed overall. And I don't want to say culture, but in the whole culture of the medium, it's heading like that. Especially with AI stories being written and AI probably going to be taking on a dominating level. It's just going to be such an oversaturated market of just chaos. Yeah. And the only things that will be good are little niche films that are made here and there because there's so much fucking shit to watch, whether it's created by a computer or a human. It's just, there's too much shit. There's too much fucking shit. And I use the word shit correctly because most of it is unfortunately shit. Everybody thinks they can make a movie. Everybody thinks it's going to be good. and 90% of the time it's not. Anyways, as I pull out of that digression, I finally found the quote that she says.
Oh, yeah,
she's talking
please.
to the girl. It's animals get. Excuse me, I butchered that quote already. Animals don't get too hung up on reason. Which you get what she's saying. There's a point to why she said that. She's still trying to figure out, was the girl attacked by a bear? Whatever the fuck happened. Mind you, I'm also thinking now another plot hole. The woman didn't take the twig out of her leg.
No, she did.
Oh, she did. Okay, I at that point I probably was paying
No.
little enough attention that I didn't give a fuck.
I think she did. Well, she started bleeding, so that's why she bandaged her up.
Okay, but I don't remember seeing the twig again after she got on the car. But
I will not go back and revisit him.
Yeah, no.
So animals
it's not a revisit.
have no. What is it?
Animals don't get too hung up on reason.
See, that doesn't it doesn't work for the motivation for the killer.
I was just gonna say, I totally get what she's saying in the comparison, but literally the necklace was the reason,
That's
and once
his reason.
the necklace returned, then the reason was no longer hung up.
Because you can't say, well, he has no reason for feeling bad about killing them. But I'm like, he does, because they stole his necklace.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a shit quote that it's like one of those quotes that you're supposed to gravitate towards.
I didn't unpack that until this moment. I was just like, all right, I get what she's saying, because
fuck that. I don't
animals are this creepy monster that won't stop killing. But clearly that was
it doesn't work for me. I'm sure someone who comes across this on Reddit is gonna fucking argue.
Yeah, let's see.
So in advance, go fuck yourself.
Here we go. This is one. The point of the last scene was to build tension for an attack that never happens. Basic subversion, which I don't think that's the word. Subversion, it's subversion. You dumb.
He spelled it wrong.
Hipster. Basic subversion of expectation. It's a slasher after all, but people seem to just thinking in terms of boring, not boring. Yeah, it's a pretty boring movie if you expect a traditional slasher, but the whole point of the film is to not be one. Yeah, thanks, asshole. This is a little longer dragged out, so I'll paraphrase throughout just to make it a little short, because I'll spare you guys this pretentious fucking asshole's comment. The appeal is a slasher from Jason's point of view. I don't mind the slow pace. I thought the slow plotting scenes were wonderfully shot. It is a fun piece together, the actual slasher movie behind the scenes. The Dead Meat podcast covered it very well. Oh, you're quoting a podcast to explain why it's a good movie. Yeah, it totally makes sense. You have to listen to a podcast to tell you what's good and not. They talk about past people and events that they are hinting at in the past movie. It's also a decently funny movie, and I really do think it's part of the intention. Honestly, my main complaint is the ending, and I just wish it was never switched perspectives at the end. So this person was fine with the long, dragged-out obnoxiousness, but their only problem was the perspective switched away from the obnoxious perspective of the killer. Thanks, bro, but your opinion sucks. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. You can't stop me. This is one that I liked, because this one is just like pretension galore to raise my level of what I said. Good for you. I thought it was a nice take on slashers. The only thing I didn't like was the boring ending that went nowhere. But good for you. I love my favorite thing about social media and the internet is when you're still able to pick up on sarcasm. Mm-hmm. Like, there's certain people that go so far out of their way to be sarcastic on the internet. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like, you're an asshole.
I just don't get it. Like, I unless this is the director or someone involved in the film that feels this strongly about it, who am I insulting? What is your stake in this movie? You know, it's a conversation. I know a debate can get heated. Fine.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. And that's the point of a debate. Like,
right.
But there has to be some sort of level of like
be a fucking adult.
Yeah.
Like, grow the
there
fuck
has
up.
to be a level of it being a debate, not a fucking bullshit argument where you have to be pretentious and you have to be the only one that's right. There is a whole point to two sides of an opinion or of a breakdown of whatever the fuck it is. Be it a movie, a song,
right?
You know, anything. I'll read some of the good ones just to take the souring away.
Just do one, because those are not as fun.
That's true. One was just like, my favorite part was when it ended, and I'm like, that's my man.
That's all the quote we need.
Okay, well, this one nails it. The appeal was in the premise, but the film wasn't as good as its premise, and I agree with that one. Because when I saw the trailer for it, the first person I texted was you, and I'm like, holy shit, this looks pretty fucking good. I think we should try to check it out. It's in IFC Center. It's playing at a couple small theaters because it's a limited release, whatever. But let's pay a couple bucks towards a semi-pseudo indie slasher, whatever the fuck. And then, of course, we figured out ways to watch it, allegedly. and I'm glad we did, because it was fucking bullshit. All the negativity aside, we didn't talk about some of the good stuff in the movie. There are some moments that are good, like one or two. there are a handful of moments that are cool.
I mean, I like the yoga scene.
The yoga scene kill
was great.
Was fucking phenomenal. And
it's very gory.
If you didn't figure this out at this point, there will be some spoilers.
Yeah.
If you don't want the direct spoilers of the film, I would say just hit the 30-second skip button ×2 just to get ahead, because we'll try to keep it all contained in a minute.
Right.
Because
there
isn't a lot of good to time anyway. But the yoga scene is fucking visceral as fuck and pretty awesome, because you're just like, all right, he puts the hook through her head. You're kind of like, okay, he killed her. She kind of awkwardly turns around. And mind you, I'm laughing at that point, because she turns around like, why did you put a hook in my head? And then he proceeds to pull the hook through guts. Well, first he guts her stomach and then hooks her head.
Yeah.
And then pulls it through her stomach and literally like pretty much pulls her, turns her into a donut.
So if you ever remember, this is the best example I can give, but when the Power Ranger movie came out, there was a specific line of Power Ranger toys where it would change their head.
Oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It would spin around.
Spin around, so it's like normal to. That's what he basically did. I had one too. Yeah. So that's what he did. He literally took her head and he basically put it in her stomach. And
he pretzel rolled that.
He pretzel rolled it, and like you see her spine crack out. It's really good. It's a really good scene.
There's like guts spewing around, and it was a good kill, because the kill before that, which I liked, and you weren't a big fan of, but he kills the girl that's trying to court the yoga girl, and he kills her by drowning her. Yeah. But I thought it was cool, because every time she would go to scream, she would like say help of the water, he'd pull her under, so it was muffled. I thought that was kind of cool, but it was a little dim.
It was all right.
Yeah.
One of my other favorites was it was a shot. It was they shoot him. He's on the floor. They go to run away. He gets up now where the camera's overhead, so you look like it's from up top. He gets up. He throws the axe. You don't really hear anything. And
that scene I thought was pretty cool too.
And then the camera turns, it pans. And
I actually thought he missed at first.
That's what I thought too. I was like, maybe he did miss.
As the camera started to follow him in the overhead, you're like, you see this guy with the fucking axe in his head, just laying motionless as the other guy goes, "God, I gotta get out of here!"
And then he gets his head fucking crushed, which was cool. It was a cool scene.
And then it was a pumpkin head brain smash.
Yeah.
So that shot was cool too.
It was cool. Yeah, I mean, like things like that, like where you choose here and there, where it's like, oh, it's effective here, it's effective there, but like, when the whole movie feels like that, everything kind of blends together, which is a shame, because then it's like all the good stuff kind of gets meshed with the shit.
Yeah.
Because it's all like the same tone. It's like, fuck, I can't. You can't break it up in your head.
How do you differentiate it?
I think that's the only things for me. Oh, and he throws the dead body.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first kill, he kills a guy listening to furthering the hipster motif in this film, but a dude's listening to a cassette with like the old school headphones, and I guess it was like not piano wire, but like thin wire that he pulls him in between a tree, and his head gets removed from it. But later on, he's like dragging the body. He's got the head in his hand, in his other hand, and when he goes to like his pretty much the monster's version of a safe house and stash spot. Yeah. Oh, it was like the
Firehouse Museum.
The Firehouse Museum, yeah. He goes in there, and in order to get in, he throws the dude's severed head, and it bounces off
his body. It was his torso.
Oh, he throws his body first.
Yeah.
And then he throws the severed head, and the severed head rolls and stays upright. And it's just by how he did it. I know
funny.
It was. There was some comedy to it.
But I will say the actual helmet mask that is used is so fucking stupid.
I thought it looked okay, but it wasn't anything to go home with. Like go home to. Not
what
go home.
What I say,
you know what I mean?
Like
it wasn't anything spectacular.
The villain from SpongeBob, the barnacle boy.
I can't remember what the fuck his name is, but it looks like the villain from SpongeBob.
But anyway, all right.
I'll leave you with one last quote.
Yeah, please.
Aside from the yoga kill, it was Dullsville, and that ending was excruciating. And that is all we have at all to say about In a Violent Nature.
What do you say? In a violent, pretentious nature?
In a violent, pretentious, subversive film.
No, not subversive.
Nature.
How do you have that person say it?
Subversion.
Oh, boy. Now, speaking of art house.
Yeah. Oh, man.
We go and see Longlegs with a couple of buddies of ours.
Mind you, this is after I literally said, I need something to get this bad horror movie taste out of my mouth.
And I walked into Longlegs thinking, well, the reviews are saying it's getting good reviews, which is never a good sign, but it's also getting quotes like, it's 7 meets Silence of the Lambs
meets 7.
Then I heard towards the tail end of the week, that it has some David Cronenberg bullshit going on, like some fantasy
yeah.
shit.
Yeah, and that was like red.
That was a red flag.
That wasn't like, oh, that sounds awesome. That was like, red flag.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on? For me, I'm not saying there's any, all the movies are like this, but
yeah.
any movies that have sort of these fantastical sort of horror,
right.
I'm just not into that. Well, into that much. It's
right.
It's not my cup of tea for horror movies. And I'm not saying that's bad.
right.
Different tastes, but
different strokes for different folks.
Right. Like people like in Violent Nature. That's to each their own. I can't. It didn't work for me.
Right.
Here it is. I'm thinking it's gonna be this cat and mouse serial killer movie. Like, great. Okay. Cool.
Right. Exactly. That's how it seemed to be loosely advertised, or at least the Jodie Foster's character in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, that's what it's. Seven meets. Did I say Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
Oh, I did say it. Okay.
It gives off this vibe of like a very intuitive. And I hate using that after watching this movie because that plays an unfortunate role in the film.
Yeah.
But there seems like there's a very intuitive detective that's trying to stop the serial killer that's been plaguing people for the better part of
30 years.
30 years. Was it 30 years?
It was 30 years. They said.
Okay.
They said 3 decades.
Damn. And it was supposed to, and it takes place in like the 90s too.
In the 90s.
Which
I always fine.
I always appreciate, even though it doesn't make or break the film in any which way.
Look, this is the same thing as in Violent Nature.
Yes.
It's slow.
Yeah.
It's so fucking slow.
I appreciate, for me at least, I appreciated the slowness but I think it was the anticipation that it was going to come to some resolve, or it was going to come to some sort of balance. But instead what came was a lot of predictive bullshit.
I must be a hypocrite because I like slow burn films. My problem is
right. Yeah,
this is my problem.
And I've said this before when we've talked about a movie, and I'm like, that shit was boring.
Yeah.
And you were like, what? You didn't like it? Like we had that problem with when we talked about the German film.
Zone of Interest?
Zone of Interest.
See,
and you
I
fucking
really
loved
liked it.
And I was like, why was it so fucking long and dragged out and boring? The tension was great.
Let me bring that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I just want to bring that up real quick. I like that movie, and that will help me decide. Figure out why I had such an issue with Longlegs.
But this shows like you have no problem with the slow burn,
right? Because
it's the context,
right? Because in Zone of Interest, for those who don't know, it's a German family that has built a house on the campsite of Auschwitz, basically.
Yeah, literally, their backyard is Auschwitz, where people are getting burned, and you're screaming. There's
fun
soot
stuff
coming in their yard, and it's very like visceral on a different level,
right? And
traumatizing on many levels, which I appreciated from the movie,
right?
But it still felt like Dullsville to me.
So for me, it works because the dullness of it is so horrifying. Because the mundaneness of an everyday activity, like you see her cleaning up, doing laundry, whatever.
Right.
While
a day in the life that's normal when it's clearly not.
Exactly. But in the background, you hear the train stopping, people getting out, dogs going off. You see smoke. And I think I fill in the gaps with what's absent on screen is audibly what I'm hearing is making it up for it.
Okay.
So it fills in those blanks. And I think for that movie, it works so well because
it's like a multi-layered
Because
storytelling.
mundane for you and everyday activity is becoming more horrifying every day.
Right.
In a Violent Nature, and in this case, Longlegs, it could be said for, let's just go back to in Violent Nature, where you could fill in the blanks, sort of, but visually, other than the shot is nice, there's not much happening because he's just kind of walking. So it's not like I'm really experiencing anything, and it's not like the soundscapes are really interesting. It's just kind of mundane. And then again, when the kills happen, for the most part, it's just kind of like, okay. And in Zone of Interest, it's more like you don't really see anything. It's just what you hear is so fucking horrifying. So I think it's a matter of like how it gets interpreted, the absence of what's there is how you use it.
Right.
So now take that to Longlegs. It's
the absence of it was a poor written story.
Well, yes, but
which, by the way, it was written and directed by Oz Perkins, which is Norman Bates, the actor that played Norman Bates,
Psycho,
Anthony Perkins. That's his son. Not to call him a nepo baby, but also
a nepo baby.
Yeah, but there you'd expect sort of like a level of clout that comes with that, and I think that's just whether you're a fan or not, or you feel the nepo baby notion taking you already expect, oh wow, well this is the son of Anthony Perkins, maybe there'll be some good that comes out of this, and he's got sort of a psychological mind because he grew up understanding the way his dad portrayed one of the biggest psychological thriller as Alfred Hitchcock would say.
Well, he doesn't.
Yeah, no,
and
no, it doesn't.
and I think the huge problem with me, I know you didn't mind it, but like I could listen. I'll take long drawn out scenes if there's like interesting dialogue and things.
Yeah, or there's like perfect example of that, and this is just coming from me. I don't know how you feel about this, but some of my favorite movies are one of my favorite directors is Quentin Tarantino, and a lot of his movies are a lot of dialogue, and those moments are creating characters.
Right.
You don't feel like it's a waste of time, at least not for the most part. With the exception of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's how I felt, but that's just me. But there's a lot of like narration and communication and slow burn scenes that build to like, okay, well now we understand the dynamic of this group, and then that dynamic gets put through the ringer like in Reservoir Dogs. So you get that dragged and build, but there wasn't that in this.
Not in this. I mean, there are scenes that are important that build.
Well, there was
story.
a subversion of the cat and mouse.
See, I don't want to give too much away for this movie because it's so new.
I kind of want to because
all right, then you take responsibility for it.
I
go ahead. Give the whole.
I give you permission to destroy this movie because of how bad it was.
The only way it'd be so difficult to pussyfoot around how this movie ends without giving it away because it's so hard to explain. Because even if we try to explain to whoever's listening how this movie ends, it's so confusing.
Well, that's what took me out of it. The ending is what ruined it for me. I was like I said before, I was essentially on board for Act 1 and Act 2 because I expected some sort of payoff via 7-esque Silence of the Lamb, Zodiac-esque finale of a sort.
Right.
And what we get is, and this is your reason to fast forward at least a minute once again, just to spare you of spoilers, because the movie is relatively fresh. We'll honor that to some extent, but that's all we will do. It becomes this satanic, like higher power bullshit,
where the devil's actually telling them to do it.
Yes, the devil, or the best way to put it is the character that Nicolas Cage plays. Yep. Is a medium or an element or a source of the devil. Yeah. He worships the devil so well that he's able to put his power and the devil's power into dolls that he makes that are aluminum balls, which is a representation of the girls that he ends up killing. See, as I'm explaining this, it sounds like I'm talking like a crazy. I sound like a fucking mentally deranged person trying to explain this plot.
So in other words, and again, this is going to be difficult.
You try to clear up what I'm trying to say.
I don't know if I can do better than you just did.
Like, I know exactly what he said, but it makes no fucking sense.
Nicolas Cage is a doll maker who also is a huge Satan worshiper.
And he looks like The Mask, the movie with Cher, which was played by Eric Schultz. Yes.
I think he looks terrible. It's like
it wasn't like people were saying it. Well, the big advertisement that they did were saying
was
Michael
him,
Monroe,
like
her heart rate jumped to 170 when she saw him for the first time.
The main actress.
Yes. Yeah. He's creepy looking, but
the first time for like a second.
Yes, exactly.
And then the more you look, you're like, oh, this looks fucking stupid.
It's like, why?
Yeah.
When he does a thing in the car,
so
it was like. It felt like a Nicolas Cage moment to me.
It is.
It wasn't like maybe if he maybe that's just because we've seen Nicolas Cage do so many things like this, and maybe that's why it's defaulted.
Right.
But like I tried to picture any other character do what he did there, and I don't think it would have been any scarier. No. And it was supposed to be this like, oh, he's deranged and fucked up, but this is like.
Listen, people were chuckling a little bit in the theater.
And I was laughing, and I looked over and she was like, "Dude, what the fuck?"
I rolled my because it's like it's Nicolas Cage. So you got to be you got to know what to expect, and I think he gave people what the expectation, like he exceeded their expectations in terms of how nuts he was going to be. But the character itself, I don't think made much sense. Whatever. Point is, that was like the least of my problems. The problem is, and I'll try to explain the ending the way Damien did, which is he's a doll maker that is a huge Satan worshiper that somehow becomes he's like his comprende, and in doing so they create these metal hollow balls, looks like a bocce ball, or aluminum foil when you like shave it down, shine it up like you see people on YouTube, and it goes into the doll's head, and then every 14th of every month, because the main actress, because she's so intuitive, figures out that when you look in the Bible or something, it's like.
You look in the Satanic Bible, it's sort of a scatter plot design of of a pattern of bullshit.
That it's the 14th of every month. It has.
Yes.
So it was like the devil told Nicolas Cage that.
I'm sorry, but I'm just cracking up because she has the intuition to figure that out, but didn't have the intuition to figure out that this same dude was in the basement of her house, of her mom's house.
That's a great point. Oh yeah. So
all this intuition. Yeah. I'm sorry. All this intuition.
That's such a good
point.
Laws. Holy shit. So fast forward because that's a great point.
Oh, I'm sorry. She had childhood trauma, and that's why she forgot everything.
She forgets everything because in the beginning there's this little girl, you find out it's her, but the little girl, she comes out of a house, she sees a car, and lo and behold, it's Nicolas Cage, and so Nicolas Cage she's next on the list to kill, and her mother's like, no, I'll do your bidding, don't do that. So the devil's like, all right, fuck it, let her do the killings now. So Nicolas Cage technically stops killing, but he becomes a supervisor for this girl's mother to do the killings. And you go find out this motherfucker's been living rent-free in the basement while the mother does dirty work. And he's so right because she can predict all this shit and she's so good at decoding stuff. And not once did she
But she couldn't decode the fact that her mom was part of it or that Nick Cage was in the basement.
Living in the house. That's such a great point.
I love the fact, too, at the end, like, was all like... So the whole premise is the reason the mom was doing it was to save her daughter's life.
Right.
But her daughter's life was justified by how many unjustified killings? Also, to free herself from that, she could have just she let her daughter become a detective to further solve the same case that she was involved in. What? It makes no
That's another good point.
sense.
And had they had a line that said, I was waiting for this moment to where you helped me in that sense.
I think they kind of loosely said it no. Well, Longlegs, he's like, I remember when you became a detective, I was excited, she was excited, and then he was doing his shtick in the interrogation room. He says something like that, and it's very much like,
okay.
And
well, remember then the mom,
and that was before we knew the mom was part of
But then she shoots the girl's doll, and then some weird smoke shit comes out.
But why did she shoot the doll?
I don't know, dude. To free her? Because I didn't explain this. But the aluminum foil ball clouts your thought process, so you're you become zombified.
So you're telling me she couldn't shoot that fucking doll when she was 8 to free her from that?
No, FBI was part of the.
Oh, right.
The more you bring up these points, I didn't even think. The stupidest fucking movie is.
That's 3 plot holes in under 2 minutes that we've already deciphered.
My plot hole.
Oh yeah,
while watching,
you're gonna drop
was
more.
They couldn't find this goddamn fuck for 30 years or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden she does all this fucking national treasure stuff, and then they're like, okay, and then literally the next scene, he's waiting at a bus stop. And the cops just come.
Yeah.
There's no explanation how they found him.
Right.
No one knows where he is, and all of a sudden he's just out in the open. And they grab him.
She said, "I know who the guy is. Are you sure about this? Yeah, this is him." And then it was hard cut to them arresting him as he's got 2 briefcase at a bus stop or some bullshit.
And I'm like, what the fuck is how do we just get to this?
Yeah.
So it is very safe to say, with these great points brought up, it is not a great movie.
No.
I was having a hard time figuring out, did I hate it or did I just not like it?
Right.
And now after having this conversation, I really don't like it. It's very fucking stupid.
I already pre-ordered on Amazon and everything.
Fuck that. See that, and the thing is, it gained so much because it did what the Blair Witch did was it built this website, like a real website where you could decode stuff.
They had pretty solid PR.
Yeah.
There was a number that you could call, and it was screaming Nick Cage on the other line, apparently, which I wanted to call.
We should actually do it now on.
Oh yeah. Let's see if we could find it.
I'm sure it's still up there because the movie made $22 million from a pretty small budget. So that's it's successful. It's a successful movie in its own right, but I don't think it is very safe to say. I'm kind of curious to know what it's going to do this weekend because I think the word of mouth actually it got a C+ from audience scoring, which is not great. Usually when that happens, it's going to drop.
That kind of gives you an idea of all right, it's riding its course of just clout and word of mouth to some extent, but
it made its money. It really made its money, which is a problem because it may be a Longlegs too.
I will not bore you guys with more comments from the visceral garbage can of Reddit, but when I posted a similar one, a little less baity, I posted a similar hey, what are you guys' thoughts on the movie? There was a handful of people wow, it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm seeing it a second time. But a lot more people are yeah, it was meh. The last act was bad. wow, I don't know why I wasted my time on that. I think most of what we saw was like 2.5 out of 5 or 2 out of 5. My favorite, well, I'll read you guys one because this one was on Instagram and it just cracked me up because it was very much like, I agree completely. All they wrote was the PR for Longlegs was better than the movie itself.
Yeah.
2.5 out of 5. And I'd say pretty close. I'd probably go as low as 2.
I was going to say 2.
Or maybe 1.5, 1.7.
I think that's a little too low because the idea itself is, like when you don't think too hard,
I'm
it's
lying.
like.
I'm lying because,
like
I said, I was on board Act 1 and Act 2 and expecting a payaoff.
Yeah.
But I think it was
5 with a lot of the issues it still has. But
yeah. Let's see what Nicolas Cage has to say about this, though.
I bought a castle.
I used to live in New Orleans.
Little angel. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
It works like that. Look,
Does it?
Look.
Yes.
I think we're laughing because
all I'm picturing is Nicolas Cage.
Well, yes.
Sitting in a sound booth. Happy birthday to you.
I think the reason, like, if I had not watched the movie and I just heard that, I would be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Now I'm interested.
Right. Yeah.
But
back to what I was saying before.
Yeah.
The PR was on point.
Yeah. I think it's creepy enough to have no context in the movie yet.
100%.
Then you watch
100%.
the movie, you're like, oh God.
I just think there was potential galore once again, and none of that potential led anywhere, and it left me wanting more.
Yeah.
But by the third act, it left me literally wanting to walk out of the theater.
Yeah.
And I haven't walked out of a movie ever in a movie, and when I turned to you in the theater, I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to leave. I would say 75% serious, but I wasn't because we paid for it. It was, as these points we mentioned and just the overall narrative, it wasn't enough to make it a good movie.
No.
Micah Monroe, or Micah, whatever the hell her name is,
fucking name is,
the one from It Follows and The Stranger.
She was fine. She's always dependable.
Yes, exactly. She's a solid actress. Even her chief was good.
Yeah.
With his daughter and wife and all that.
Yeah.
All the secondary characters were fine. There was no acting issues. There were no.
I don't think Nicolas Cage minus the. That's. I think he did what he could. And he tried. There's nothing. I think acting wise, exactly. When you compare the two movies, this is far superior than Violent Nature, which is also it's very different movies, but this is a little more complex. I wouldn't say the story's complex. It's not hard to follow.
Correct.
I know some people complain it was confusing. It's not confusing at all. It's just not good.
The final ending is just stupidity.
Right.
A thinly veiled religious, culty, satanic, whatever bullshit.
Of the two, especially when in regards to Rotten Tomatoes, I would not give this. There's no way this movie's a 91. This movie's not even in the 60. I would probably give it like
close.
Probably 47.
Yeah.
50 would be super generous, but that's it.
So we'll give you the critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes. We'll give you the audience score, and then we will give our personal scores. I think that's the gist of how this will go down. I guess should we go out of 10? Out of 10 toes in honor of Dub Feet?
Sure.
Which, if you want to convert it for the sake of Rotten Tomatoes, just add a 0. That's your percentage number right there.
Right.
All right. In a Violent Nature comes in strong at 78%, certified fresh with 158 reviews. However, 44%.
Wow.
200 plus verified audience.
Yeah, that's about right. I would give it out of 10 toes. You said 4.5 toes.
4.5 toes.
Yeah.
I would probably go 3.94 toes.
Okay.
4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just do whole numbers. 4 toes out of 10.
Yeah. 4 toes out of 10.
Okay.
I mean, we usually split the difference between our votes anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 out of 10 toes.
Okay. I agree. I don't think I would go higher than that.
Right.
Longlegs.
Longlegs. Sorry, and I just thought of the whole premise. I was like arguing with people about why is it called Longlegs, and apparently the reason is it's like an old phrase that people would say to kids. It's like, oh, how'd my legs get so long? Because they're talking to a little kid.
Yeah.
That's like 2 feet tall.
Right.
Which is cute and funny, and that was adding to the weird.
Actually, that
creepiness.
makes sense now because he only kills kids.
Yes. So
now that makes sense.
The appeal of it sort of makes sense, but it was very thinly veiled, and it's like an old phrase that I don't think anybody's heard
I
of.
don't remember.
Yeah,
no,
I haven't heard it in my lifetime.
Yeah,
But
that makes
upon
sense.
explanation, I'm like, all right, I'll give
I'll give that. That's a good title.
I'll give the pretentious Redditors, mouth breathers, and neckbeards their day of worth for that one. Anyways, Longlegs, 87%.
Wow. Went down.
Certified fresh, 203 reviews. What was that, 90-something?
When the night we saw it went down to 91.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I looked it up not too soon after. And it's at 65%, 1,000 plus verified
Wow.
reviews. Granted, and I feel it's necessary to disclaim this, at least with Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
With audience scores, anybody could rate it.
Of course.
And people purposely rate bomb stuff
sure.
if they want it. Like if they feel like there's a woke agenda, they will purposely downrate it. If they feel like there's any sort of thing, the hive mind of stupidity,
assholes.
people will, just to be an asshole, downvote it. So just keep that in mind.
For sure.
But
I would totally
out of 10 toes.
I would give it strong 5.
Yeah, I think I'll probably agree with you on there.
I think it's I'll say this much. Longlegs
Yeah.
is a movie you watch once.
Yes.
It's zany. It's a little nuts, but it's worth the view because it's not a terrible movie. It's definitely a one view. All right, I saw it. In A Violent Nature, I feel that again, it's not a terrible movie. It's not like, oh my god, it's the worst movie I've ever seen. But I don't think us watching it by yourself doesn't do it justice.
Right.
I think if you watch it with a group, it may have a better effect.
And I feel like had we seen that one in the theater, there might have been a little more
Oh,
elevation,
maybe.
just because it's just that sort of submersive.
Of course.
It's a perfect example of that is watching that movie, the I was going to say the paranormal movie with activities in it, Paranormal
Yeah,
Activity.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
saw
it's-
part 1.
Yeah, we saw it together.
Yeah,
you fuck.
so long ago.
We actually saw that before it went wide. We actually, you
Oh,
could
yeah, that's
reserve it, like come see it in my state,
Yes.
And-
you had to like rally to get it there.
and we did, and somehow it made it enough to be shown in some theater in Brooklyn, and we
Yeah.
went, and it was packed, and
It was great.
it was great. It was a fun movie.
Because of the audience.
Absolutely.
And just that was the last time I felt like I was submersed in the environment of it. Because there's a couple scenes, like I remember up until that point, I hadn't had a movie give me that prickly feeling in the back of my neck as I watch it. It's mostly like, all right, I rolled number 5.
right.
And there's just, I don't, because it's been so long since I've seen it, but there's one scene in that movie where something happens and I felt that creepiness just spike on the back of my neck. I'm like, oh, fuck, you know?
Right.
And I was hyped to the point where I took the movie home. Like
Yeah.
I eventually bought it. I
You got
remember
me
I
a copy for my birthday.
yeah. And I got one for myself, of course, obviously. And I brought it home, and I was like, all right, Kayla, my sister,
Yep.
and my sister and her boyfriend was like, you guys got to watch this movie. And I'm like, backseat watching them watch the movie. They're bored. They're wandering around. They're not really paying attention to it. And then I realized the biggest difference was you didn't have that
Same crap.
4 walls, movie theater, same crowd. That all those vibes were not there. So it didn't have the same effect from at-home viewing.
You just untapped a memory I forgot about. I saw that movie twice.
Okay.
So obviously I saw it with you first,
Yeah.
and then
again and without me?
I was so hyped to see it again.
Yeah.
because I was like, I need
You
someone
yes,
else.
but also you need another perspective. But you
Exactly.
wanted to absorb something different from it to see if it still had that same oomph, right?
And I took Nick, yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is, and I was like, I was amping up because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Packed theater, same sort of reaction. People were very much into it.
Oh, he needs some milk. Couple comments.
Yeah. But Nick hated it, and
Yeah.
and it was like seeing someone that didn't like it, and I was
Yeah.
like, and I watched it again, knowing that you know all the tricks now.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it was okay. You know,
The magic wasn't fully
intact.
Yeah.
And then you got me the copy, and then I watched it one more time at home.
Yeah.
And I
It
was,
was like watching a different fucking movie,
yeah,
right?
I was like, man, this is fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like it's not that great. It's kind of boring. And nowadays I've caught glimpses here and there, and again, it's one of those movies where it's like, man, it just meanders a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that movie. It's like, why are you selling the house?
right.
You know,
You decided to stay.
but that movie makes sense only because the ghost always follows her.
Right.
So no matter what,
Yes.
she's fucked for the rest of her life. So that's whatever. But why? At no point did they move. But that's a movie for another day. But
also full circle, I'm doing a yard sale this weekend, and
It's
Paranormal
on there.
Activity will be there at the yard sale.
or buy it on Walmart, whole collection for $20.
Yeah,
No, but
what are they on? Paranormal Activity 6?
Well, the last one is like on an
4 or
Amish
5,
farm.
right?
Yeah, 5, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or 6, and I watched that one with Vin.
Mm-hmm.
We were laughing because there's certain scenes. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's
Yeah.
like it has me end. It's way past its time. It's got to end.
I think I saw little portions of part 3 or 4, and I was like, okay, they're still kind of doing the shtick from the previous ones,
Yep.
but it's like
It's enough for it.
it's whatever. Yeah, it's
That-
like pseudo found footage meets footage of your own, and it's just this like
this doesn't work.
diary whatever bullshit. And
It's
it-
lightning in a bottle,
exactly.
and lightning usually never strikes twice. It's very rare if
Right.
it ever happens. So it's like it's enough.
And once the lightning strikes a bottle, it breaks.
Exactly. But anyway, so that's our review on Violent Nature and Longlegs.
Yes.
So we gave 4
that's
and 5.
That's a 4 for in a violent nature, and a 5 for Longlegs. As always, I'll be posting a little snippets, and I'll probably do like I do like these little cards that shows our rating.
Sure.
And I'll do like the podcast artwork, whatever, blah 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 blah. But I'll post that. You guys can see that. Feel free to comment on what you guys thought of either one of these movies if you have seen it. This one, I'm going to shout out to Lewis because I was telling him about the movie, and he's like, oh, shit, I have a feeling I'm going to like it just because of how much you hated it.
Sure.
So, Lewis, I'm looking forward to your comments about this movie after you see it. But anybody else who's seen it, feel free to drop a comment or shoot me a text because I'm curious to what you guys
I'm
thought.
curious. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not trying to bait you like I
No,
was
no,
baiting
not at all.
people on Reddit.
I want to know if
I'm curious.
someone has a strong argument of like why it's good or whatever, and be like, oh, it changed my perspective. And not like I'm gonna fight you on it. More like I
it's
just
not
want
going to happen because those like 4 very, very obvious plot holes from
I know,
Longlegs. It makes that movie. I take
just
it back.
destroyed the whole movie for anyone.
I'm bringing it down to 3 out of 10. I'll leave it at 5 out of 10.
5. Yeah, I think with the issues that it does have, I think overall it's a man movie that's worth at least one viewing.
100%.
Just to watch,
100%.
Whatever. But anyway,
would I buy it? Would I watch it again?
no.
No.
Unless the cover art is cool, but I probably still wouldn't buy it.
Steelbook, black, red. Nicolas Cage's face is on the
Even
back.
just do his face with the security camera when they froze the not security camera when they did the interrogation where they froze on his face. If that was a steelbook, maybe I would buy it.
I still want it.
No,
I mean, I'm saying this, and I just bought Godzilla -1
Yeah.
extra obnoxious collection.
yeah,
But,
I don't know if I would. Nah, well, until then, because I don't know, it'll probably be out next week. But no.
If it's out and it's bought, we will bring it back up in this pod.
Until then,
See ya, motherfuckers.
peace. Little Skimmer. The little skimmer you never knew you needed until you need it.
What's a little skimmer?
I'm glad you asked. Little Skimmer picks up little things inside your bathtub when you use it. More specifically, its aerodynamic design and tight weave stitching picks up all the semen that you could use when you jerk off in the bathtub.
Wait, the semen? Why is this something that we're picking up in the...
It has been proven by a 1,000-person survey that 999 people jerk off in the bathtub. That one person, if you're asking, actually died. But we're going to go ahead and assume he died of jerking off. It works for men, women, zigs and zags. All you need to do is click, 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 and pull. Take the little skimmer out.
Just like what I do with my dick when I'm jerking off in the shower.
It's fun and it's an activity for the whole family. Have your kids go there and scoop up as much semen as they possibly can. Make it a fun game. A Friday night.
I got 3 pints of daddy semen.
Some of it's on my face.
Ew, yucky.
Oh, honey, you don't know anything about your dad's semen's on faces.
This is so fun. If you give me about an hour, I can do it again. Little Skimmer. Buy it now. Amazon. KB Toys. Toys R Us. We're rated high on BBB.